on 19 Keys, and this is high-level conversation.
That you talked about man being, related to the number 6. Well, that makes me immediately think of the hexagram, right? Which is the Star of David or Metatron's cube, or there's so many different names for this, right? And it's not just in Judaism; it shows up everywhere, right? Literally shows up everywhere. I don't know if you guys saw the latest Johns Hopkins research also that showed they did a kind of 23andMe test. And have you done 23andMe?
Unfortunately, I have.
I did too. And now I wish I didn't do it because then they have all my data. But, I found out, where my whole family was from and everything. Yeah. And so that was that part of it was cool. Well, they found that the people that were living, and without getting too controversial here, but this is Johns Hopkins study that just came out, the people that were living in Palestine were actually from that area of the world at the time of the biblical time, right? And that the people that are living in Israel now don't actually have that DNA. Now, you can argue, hey, right or wrong or whatever, and I'm certainly not a fan of what happened with the Holocaust. In fact, I've been a very outspoken proponent of, making sure that we never have those kinds of issues come up again, ever again.
Unfortunately, we have them today.
And we have one today. And it's interesting how it basically flipped, right? Because I've been to Yad Vashem, and I find it a terrible travesty that we can sit here and justify the death of tens of thousands of people, and thousands and thousands, at least 40% would be children under the age of 10, and say, oh, it's because we're going after the bad guys. To me, this is like, it reminds me of Saul Alinsky, who was a social agitator, who wrote that our world is not a world of angels, rather it is a world of angles. A world where men speak of moral principle yet act on power principle. A world where we are always moral and our enemies, whomever they are always immoral. This is unfortunately, too much of, it's taken over many, many of the chapters of the human story. And I think that part of it's got to end. But when I start thinking about the 6, and your point, I think of Metatron's cube. I think of the Vitruvian Man, also by Leonardo da Vinci, because that's also tied to the same thing. And within 6-point perspective, you can create all geometric forms. So all of the Platonic solids that we know of, and it could be that, Plato got all of this information, who knows, from the Egyptian mystery schools. We know he went. We know Socrates went to the Egyptian mystery schools, but the Egyptian mystery schools didn't want to be quoted anyway. So we're thankful, at least, to the Greeks for having left records for us to basically find. But what's interesting about it is the Platonic solids are, it starts with a tetrahedron. A tetrahedron is a shape that would be an equilateral triangle into a 3-dimensional object. So 4 sides of equilateral triangle, right? Then you have a cube. So you've got, a cube would be 6 sides of a square, right? And then you have an octahedron. So the way that would get formed is you would take the center point of a square and connect the center points of each of those 6 sides, and it creates a shape that looks like a pyramid and an inverted pyramid, right, attached to it. Then you've got an icosahedron, you've got a dodecahedron, and then some would argue an icosahedron, which would be the combination of the two. Because, again, if you took an icosahedron, which is supposed to be the structure of water clusters, take the center point of it and attach all of those and connect the dots of it, you'd have a dodecahedron. So one is part of the other, without a doubt. How is it that every single form that's regular in the universe, regular meaning it only has, like a dodecahedron, it has basically 12 sides of pentagons. So perfect pentagons, they're regular pentagons. How is it that all forms of life are based on these structures? Plankton is the exact shape of a dodecahedron. Icosahedron is the shape of COVID. The structure is a truncated icosahedron. Every single shape that exists in the universe in regular form can be made inside of, without any measurements whatsoever. I don't need to measure anything. I can make all of those forms perfectly in perspective geometry inside of the Star of David, inside of the Merkaba. To me, that implies a level of design that is so far beyond anything we could ever have constructed, and it implies an architect behind all of it. And it goes beyond implying it. That, in combination with 0 to the power of 0, says that, to me, unequivocally, there is definitely a God.
Mm-hmm.
Now listen, a little housekeeping. We have sports moss. Sports moss is what I've been using to get big. Now, I know some of y'all been seeing me and y'all been asking me if I'm going to play the next Black Adam, right? Y'all want to know if I'm going to get into wrestling or into boxing or I'm going to start bodybuilding and all those things. Now, the answer is no, right? I'm developing these broad shoulders and arms and legs because I can, right? I wanted to develop myself into the greater version, but I couldn't do it without the sports moss. 2 of these a day, and it increases adenosine triphosphate, which help deliver that oxygen to my blood while I'm working out, right? And then it helps decrease recovery time. So in this, it says we got the elderberry in there, we got the vitamin D, the sea moss, the zinc, and the cordyceps. Now that conversation, I had you tapped in. This is the Super Saiyan, you understand me, pill right here. Yeah. Then we got the vitamin C moss. We have smart moss. So each one does something different. Y'all know we don't be getting enough sun, so you got to get that vitamin D in you anyway to regulate them hormones. You got to get that vitamin C because we don't naturally produce ascorbic acid, so you got to get it through food or some sort of supplementation in order for you to be balanced. You got to get that green tea extract in there, help build up that immune system. Now, we got shrooms, but not the shrooms that give you the psychedelic experience, right? But it is the shrooms that help you increase your psychic abilities, meaning your mind, meaning your brain. Right, as we age and we develop, we get old, decrepit, can't remember things, start to lose things. So we got to tap in, especially in a world that's constantly making us mentally exhausted. Then, of course, we got the gold. Now, y'all already know the gold, man. The gold to have us tapped into our electrical wiring systems to where your brain synapses is firing just like you was a baby. You're constantly developing, regrowing, and reflowing, right? So if you want to tap into those energy systems of mineralizations that I use to tap into my body, rather than being infused with the chemicalizations to where you no longer God body, y'all come tap into the gold water pills, man.
Peace, family. If you want to see us at the highest level, if you want to see us at the top of the podcast charts, this is the way you can help, not just with your views and your attention. First of all, I want to thank you for being here, listening, watching, sharing, but we also need you to comment. This is how support looks like. I need you to comment the best thing you liked about the episode or the worst thing. It's up to you, whatever you would like to share. Then I need you to go and put in them 5 stars. Go to Apple's, go to Spotify's, go everywhere, and I need to see them testimonials, and I need you to go on Apple and Spotify and download and subscribe. The more downloads we get, the better we are able to do in business, and the more we can grow this high level media. Again, I want to thank you all for supporting. Thank you all for tapping in. If you want to book, the booking email is 19keys@19keys.com. Tap in.
I'm 19 Keys, and this is high level conversation.